From gladiators duking it out in the Flavian amphitheater, knights clad in shiny armor jousting round after round trying to knock each other off their horses, to Alexander Hamilton dueling to the death with Orin Burr. Even in mythology, the idea of these one-on-one duels have always seemed to fascinate us. Achilles versus Hector, Hercules versus the Hydra, and Siegfried's fight with the dreaded dragon Fafnir. Modern versions would be Captain America fighting Thanos one-on-one, Batman staring down the Superman, Robert Baratheon versus Rhaegar Targaryen. Everyone loves these stories, and nowhere in the real world do these stories become as legendary as when pilots strap on their flight suits, goggles, and wind-pulled white scarves, fighting for glory in their man-made dragons. Some of these dogfights and dogfighters have become legendary. Saburo Sakai versus James Pug Sutherland, the best of both nations, engaging each other over Guadalcanal. Douglas Bader, a British pilot who, despite having lost both his legs in a plane crash, managed 22 air-to-air kills. The list goes on and on. But I want to talk about the very first dogfight, the first air-to-air duel, the first time rival aviators came to blows in the skies. But that's actually more complicated to do than one might expect. So pretty much as soon as planes became a thing, militaries all over the world were interested in their military application. The US was the first to adopt a plane in the form of the 1909 Wright military flyer, which they wanted to use as a reconnaissance aircraft. And other countries started following this trend as well, using planes for the sole purpose of conducting reconnaissance. As the role became more prevalent, it was only a matter of time before opposing recon planes would start to encounter each other on their missions. And that is exactly what happened in 1913 during the Mexican Revolution on November 30th, when two planes, one belonging to the Federal Army and the other to the Carrancista faction, I really hope I'm saying that right, they started shooting at each other with their pistols. The two planes apparently circled each other as both reloaded and fired again. While ducking and diving to avoid getting hit, both pilots ran out of ammo and left each other alone, landing and receiving hero welcomes. So this event is widely considered to be the very first dogfight. But there is more to the story than one might expect. Both planes were flown by American mercenaries. Dean Ivan Lamb flew for the Caristas, while Phil Rader flew for the Federal Army. And as it turns out, they were good friends, and they both knew that they were flying on opposing sides of the conflict. So when Rader fired the first shots on that day, he intentionally aimed low as to not hit his friend, and Lamb did the same. Both of them wanted people on the ground to think that they were legitimately trying to shoot each other down, and by extension to make their generals believe that they were really fighting, since both of them were under orders to shoot each other down. So even though this is widely considered to be the first example of air-to-air combat, it doesn't exactly count as a dogfight now, does it? Two friends missing on purpose with no intention to hurt one another. However, the first proper dogfight would take place less than a year later over Jonchery, Reims, France, between a Voisin-free biplane belonging to the
goddamn Frenchy, cheese-eating surrender monkey
and Aviatic B-2 belonging to the Germans. The Voisin-free was a two-seater pusher-prop design and was used as a bomber and recon aircraft by multiple countries besides the French, most notably the Russians, who bought around 800 of them. It was armed with a Hotchkiss 8mm machine gun and was piloted by Sergeant Joseph Franz and Corporal Louis Quinault. Oh my god, my French ancestors are looking down on me in disgust because I can't pronounce these French names. The Aviatic B-2, on the other hand, was also a two-seater aircraft with a puller-prop design and no fixed armament. Instead, the observer just had a rifle with him, and it was piloted by, alright, get ready, Oberleutnant Fritz von Zangen and Sergeant Wilhelm Schlichting. Franz got in a chase with two aviatics while on a morning bombing mission. According to Franz, he saw Wilhelm bring to bear his rifle. Seeing this, Corporal Louis Quinault fired off a couple of bursts with his machine gun, hitting the fuel tank of the aviatic, setting it on fire and crashing in a swamp, killing both crewmen. Now, French media latched onto this story very quickly, and it became an effective piece of propaganda, with both Franz and Quinault being awarded medals soon after. Franz, however, grimly recalled the aftermath. When he arrived to the crash, there were already souvenir hunters everywhere, and one of them gave him a picture from one of the dead Germans. He gave it back almost immediately. And from there on out, planes during the First World War started to be better armed with the sole purpose of shooting down enemy aircraft, thus beginning the age of the fighter plane and the dogfight. An age which is already pretty much over. Dogfights aren't really a thing anymore. With modern long-range air-to-air and surface-to-air missiles, planes engaging with each other at close range, guns a-blazing, trying to avoid getting hit by machine gun fire, while banking and diving just isn't really happening anymore. So in the same way that those jousting knights and battling gladiators are a thing of the past, too is the fighter race. Probably.